will be aware when conversing with one another. And we're starting, first of all, with public question time. Are there any members of the public who wish to ask any questions? Okay.
Petition, so there's an agenda item.
Okay, I believe the petition is on the agenda in any case. Thank you. We'll hear it later. Question later. Apologies have been received from Councillor Connor Solé, Councillor Gemma Evans and Councillor Richard Lees. Are there any declarations of interest that councillors wish to make about any of the agenda items? Yes, Councillor Fernandez.
Just on agenda item 16, I'm also a parish councillor with Bishop's Hall Parish Council.
Thank you. And Councillor Tully.
On item 14, I'm also a parish councillor at West London.
Thank you. Well, Councillor Deacon, yes.
Yeah, so I should probably just make a note that both item 11, the petition for Eastwick Road, and the still approval for the Maidbrook Country Park, whilst not in my town council division, are in my Somerset council division.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The minutes of the last meeting need to be signed and approved. Could I have a proposer, please? The minutes of the last meeting. Thank you, Councillor Ellis, and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Tully. Could I have a show of hands then, please? Thank you. Unanimous. We note the minutes and actions arising from the committees shown below. Finance and Governance on the 21st of January 2025, and Planning Development and Licensing Committee 23 February 2024. And please note that any committee minutes referred to full council requiring approval will be listed separately. So I need a proposer as well for this item. Those two. Thank you, Councillor Firmin, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Fernandez. And could I have another show of hands, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. Right, the next item is actually you're receiving announcements from me. Mercifully, because we've got a very long agenda, mine are quite short this time. Well, the most exciting thing we attended this month was the Seroptimus Swimathon at Taunton School, and we witnessed the town council team, the mayor's mackerels, swimming around like dolphins. It didn't look at all easy, but it was very exciting, and I'd like to thank all those councillors and council officers who took part, and also a big thank you to Councillor O'Donnell for organising it. The Seroptimus ladies were very impressed that he kept his promise from last year to organise a council team to take part. So well done, everybody concerned. You did a fantastic job. We had an interesting trip to Swindon to be entertained by the Showman's Guild, and it was a thank you from the showmen. We were Team Taunton Carnival. I attended a couple of AGMs, the Taunton Sinfonietta and Friends of Koningslutter. And on St David's Day, we were entertained by Taunton Deane Male Voice Choir, who were hosting the lovely Taff Eli Ladies Choir at Wellington School. And on Sunday, we visited beautiful Axbridge to attend the Civic Awards service. Last Friday, we were invited by King's College to enjoy their amazing production of Chicago. It was a glitzy, sophisticated performance, and I think everyone in the theatre enjoyed it. And I was able to congratulate the director and musical director who've done a really grand job. And that's it for me. So moving on to communications from the leader of the council.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Like you, there's a lot on the agenda this evening, so I'll be very brief. The only thing I wanted to say to start the meeting was just to welcome Councillor Pollard. I know that you're going to be an amazing town councillor for Lingford, and look forward to working with you over the next couple of years. So welcome and enjoy your first meeting this evening. That's all from me, Madam Mayor.
And then we move on to reports from chairs of committee. So could I call on any members who wish to provide an update? Chairs of committees. Councillor Fernandez.
Yeah, I think following on from lead of my fellow members, I'll keep it short. Just briefly, we, both myself and Craig Stone, attended the Safer Streets meeting, which has been organised by the Taunton Chamber of Commerce. Many of our retailers and businesses were in attendance to hear from Avon and Somerset Police and share the business crime issues they faced, along with the challenges of antisocial behaviour. Craig gave a brief introduction of the business crime reduction model called UK PAC, which Taunton Town Council are funding for a year, and discussions are currently ongoing with Avon and Somerset Police and with security company SWL, who also provide our street marshal. They'll be administering the scheme, and local businesses will soon be given details of how to join that scheme. An offer has been made to appoint a second street marshal, as agreed at the January Community in Place meeting, which is great news. I understand preparation for our Taunton Together 2025 is well underway, with monthly stakeholder updates, both in person here and in-house and online. Engagement with providers is underway to expand and digitise our heritage trails, so more to come on that at a later date. And our climate officer, I understand, has been very, very busy meeting with Net Zero, active travel groups with Taunton Area Cycling Campaign. She's busy working on our wildflower strategy, decarbonisation, and engaging with Wessex Water on watermark town status for Taunton. So she's very busy. That's all from me, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fernandez. Any other reports? Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the Operations and Assets Committee, I think the only thing I really want to highlight today is that we have we're in negotiation of taking on Building 2. That is going to require up to about, we were discussing last week, and it's going to cost in the region of about £260,000, but we are putting in a bid now for SIL money. So hopefully most of that will come from SIL money. And so I think that's about as much as I would like to pass on at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Tully.
Thank you, Chair. The Finance and Governance met on the 4th of March. The majority we debated in it is actually on our agenda tonight. In fact, it's items, I think 14 to 18. The only thing which I was going to bring up, we discussed, we debated rather, the AI policy. For those that don't know, the artificial intelligence one called Albus. One thing did come up is that how many few of us knew about it, understood it. I know a lot of the youngsters do, but I for one don't. And our clerk generously suggested that we have a training session. So I hope if we do, people will turn up, even if you think you know. I don't think you do. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Tully. Councillor Ellis. Anyone else? Thank you. Any reports from outside bodies? Councillor Fernandez.
Yeah, just to keep it brief, as part of being the core member for the Taunton LCN, I attended the Somerset Local Plan Engagement meeting that was held a couple of weeks ago, and it was quite a very well attended meeting, and we sort of, various tables, spent lots of time with the consultants, making suggestions and consulting about housing and so on. So lots of post-its, lots of notes, and I think it was a really well attended engagement event, and I think that there's going to be more. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fernandez. Anyone else? Any other outside body? That. Moving on then, was to receive any reports or communications from Somerset councillors. Councillor Ellis.
Just very briefly, the headline news is we did in fact agree our budget last Wednesday at the cricket ground, and I'm very sorry we had to put the council tax up by 7.5%. If we hadn't have done that, what would have happened was our section 151 officer would have had to issue a section 114 notice, whereupon commissioners would have been sent in £1,000 a day to increase council tax, probably by double figures, shed loads more services and do untold damage. So it was a case of being between a rock and a hard place. You may also have heard there's been a bit of a rowback on the proposals by Somerset Council for charging for parking. So they have dropped the proposal to charge overnight in our car parks, and the proposal for the on-street ones is that the first half hour you get free or something. However, to great dismay, the proposals to introduce parking on Sundays in our car parks remains, and many of us have heard a lot, not just from our local traders and residents who this will affect, also from some of the 20 churches that are in Taunton. So all different denominations, religious persuasions, and also a lot of them who are delivering vital community services, who this will affect quite badly. So you can always sign the public petition, which is still up, nearly 3,000 signatures. It's on change.org. There will be some kind of formal consultation. I don't know if that's just going to be having to object against specific orders or whether there'll be a pre-consultation. I don't think anybody quite understands. Anyway, I'm just relaying that, but it's not a done deal. So,
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Smith-Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Caro has kind of highlighted the main aspects of what's been happening at Somerset Council. I just wanted to add around the fact, because we have many people in this in our town council area that are tenants of ours. So, for example, the HRA budget went through as well, which will see building of further council home development as part of the regeneration programme, particularly in the North Taunton Willowbrae project. In my area, the Oxford Inn is progressing, so that also went through. I think just to add to what Caro has said, the leader of the council, Bill Revens, was actually at a select committee in Parliament today discussing the state of local government finances in general, and to give evidence, I guess, around the situation where 65% or 66% of Somerset Council's budget goes on social care. So that leaves a very small amount to do all the other services that it picks up, and why it's asking town councils such as ourselves to take on some of those services. So I hope that government are starting to listen if they've got a select committee going, and that they have people giving evidence who know, what they're talking about and the challenges that we face.
Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I think Councillor Ellis and Councillor Smith-Roberts have covered pretty much what I was going to say, or part of what I was going to say. I was just going to mention on a local level within my ward that there are going to be some changes to parking, which are being consulted on in Byron Road, Leisure Way, Eastley Road and Wordsworth Drive. So that was just for a very local ward issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yep. Okay, thank you. Then moving on. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tully.
Sorry, Chair. I was waiting to hear what our councillors from Somerset are saying, and I'm shocked to hear it. As wearing another hat, I'm the church warden of the Minster. That affects half our congregation. You're crucifying them for what? £4 it costs to park there long enough to go to church. I think you should be ashamed of yourselves. It's time now to get this stopped once and for all. One of the things that's annoying most people, my council tax will go up by £4 a week, which, if you get the things done, Cannon Street car park, get the potholes filled, make sure the lighting's on there so it's safe. Even better, get the single lights in the churchyard fixed. We've asked for over 2 years to have it fixed and it's still not working. We've had 2 accidents in the last 5 weeks. You just make you all think about, you're putting, let's say, my council tax up by £4. I reached a certain age last year, and the government were kind enough to give me an extra on my pension. £4? No. £5? No. 25 pence a week is what I was given. An insult, I think, to me. I wasn't sure to laugh or cry with it. But the amount of money you're charging people who haven't got money, in my ward and Martin's ward, we have some of the poorest people. They're getting hit. I'm sorry. I think people need to start to sort this out. Thank you, Chair, let me speak.
Thank you, Councillor Tully. Councillor Smith-Roberts.
I'll just come back on a few of those points, because I'm not sure whether Ray understood what Caro was saying in relation to car parking. And I'm not here to say what my view is one way or the other, but just to state facts. So there is a consultation that will take place when it comes to car parking. And I would hope that everyone in this room puts their views across. And just by signing a petition that, you know, they need to put their views into that consultation. When it comes to council tax and those difficult decisions that have to be made, for those that don't know, and I think you may have heard also Councillor Tom Deacon speak passionately about this alongside myself, is that there is a council tax support scheme so that those who need it, so I represent, you know, the most deprived area, Ray, as you know, on Somerset Council, for those that need it, they can access a council tax support scheme, and that helps them towards their costs. There's a household support fund, so that's also available to those in need. And I'm just wondering whether it's something maybe the town council can do, is to continue or to communicate through our great communications channels and through our social media around the different support mechanisms that are available to people, so that when those council tax bills land in April or just before April, that they know exactly where they can go to turn, because it can just guide people to go for help. And the same for councillors, if you get contacted, you can guide them to that.
And Councillor Smith-Roberts, can I just ask, do people get help in filling out these forms, applying?
So the council tax support scheme is done via our Revs and benefit team at Somerset Council, and they will provide guidance. What they also do is also look at all the other different support that is available to people. They don't just look at the one kind of support mechanism. They look at lots of different options and make sure that you're receiving all that is available to you. We also work with the CAB as an example to get them to give support. So there is lots of support out there. I guess it's all about people being aware of what is available and using our channels, both all as councillors and our corporate channels, to be able to promote that.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While we're on this subject, one of the issues that I have with all authorities is lack of communication. Now, Councillor Smith-Roberts has just given us a very detailed report, which is very helpful. But the parking changes that you mentioned in Leisure Way, Wordsworth Drive, Councillor Ray Tully and myself knew absolutely nothing about. Is it possible, please, to keep us informed when things are coming up which directly affect the residents of our ward?
I can take that away to the parking team. Everything gets published in the Gazette. I thought that the town council gets notified of TRA changes, but if they don't, I can double check as to where that builds in, and if not, find out why that doesn't happen. It doesn't fall under my remit as Somerset Council, but I can find a way.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts. Okay, moving on then to item number 10, which is the forward plan. So members are just asked to note the forward plan. I need a proposer. Please, someone to propose. Thank you, Councillor Firmin, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, Fraschini, thank you, sorry.
Didn't want to get it
Councillor
wrong.
Fraschini, well, yes, thank you, councillor Fraschini. Seconder, and a show of hands, please. That's unanimous, thank you. And moving on to item 11, which is a petition on Eastwick Road. And I'm calling on Ray Moore to introduce the petition, please.
Name's Derek Moore.
Derek Moore, thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
I'll correct that in minutes, thank you.
With my son and it's Raymond Moore. It's got up the petition of 5,000 or more people signatures for the reduce the speed on Eastwick Road on throughout the chicanes and have 2 pedestrian crossings, one at the lower end of Eastwick Road and one up outside St Teresa's Church, where it's used considerable by children crossing the road and people using the church. And also there was going to be some railings put outside my place at 201 Eastwick Road for as a safety barrier, because the cars are coming down up over my drive entrance and along the footpath, and I've been hit by wingers 3 times. It's someone before I came in here nearly got knocked down with a pram and a pushchair just because someone wanted to drive up over and avoid the other vehicles. And I'd like to see that either these bench humps then would go along on the road in places for to help slow them down to a speed of 20 miles an hour. That we're desperate for the lead for the speed limit, because they're going up and down there at 40 miles an hour plus, and evenings is a lot worse because there isn't so much traffic around. Well, I myself took a census there last Friday morning between 8 o'clock and 9:15, and there was nearly 1,000 cars and lorries go up and down just in that short period of time. Well, if you're building further up on the estates, then there's going to be more traffic than ever going to be using Eastwick Road, and they're using the road as a cut through from Priorswood right through to get through to on the Minehead Road, rather than go around Greenway Road. So that ends my concern on this petition.
Thank you very much indeed, thank you. Call upon councillor Deacon to respond.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you again to Derek and Ray for all of the work that you put into your petition. 5,000 signatures is really some achievement, and I've heard firsthand of stories from residents like yourselves on that stretch of road about how dangerous it is, and the worry and anxiety that they have with increasing traffic and vehicles, as you say, with additional development as well in the area. So I'm in full support of the campaign that you've so well put together. And it's been wonderful, although ashamed to see you in it, but to see you get so much good media coverage out of it, I think it shows the strength of the issue and how strongly people feel about it. I know that you took the same petition to Somerset Council Executive, and they confirmed that they would install an additional safety barrier in the location that you mentioned. So, and I know that I'll continue to work with the two of you to get some timings on that and to make sure that happens quickly for you. On the other issues you raise around 20 mile an hour zones, additional pedestrian crossings, the steer was very clear from Somerset Council that they would be looking to this council to fund any works related to those changes. So that Somerset Council would be unwilling at the moment, given their financial emergency, to explore that, but would look to work closely in partnership with us. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. I'm going to look at the clerk. Am I allowed to make a proposal in response to the petition on behalf of the council if members agree with it?
You can't make a proposal if it's not on the agenda, but you can request it goes on to the next agenda as an item.
Okay, could I request then that, or the relevant committee, maybe not necessarily full council, but the relevant committee, that if members generally agree that we as Taunton Town Council formally submit an application for a 20-mile-an-hour zone in the Eastwick Road area, and that we request associated costings for any feasibility study related to inserting new additional pedestrian crossings on the area of road mentioned by Derek and Raymore this evening, if members are generally happy with that. And I'm comfortable for it to come back to full council or to the relevant committee, but I would like this council to push on this issue as much as we possibly can.
That sounds like a good proposal, Tom. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
I'll just second that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Strauss. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some calls to be around Eastwood roads now and again, and I agree that the speeds, often I see people when I'm trying to cross the road near the car park, they come down the hill really quickly. So I agree with that. I guess my question to the leader is, there may be other residents in Taunton that think I'm suffering from that. So I guess I'm asking, are there things that other residents will do that will come to this council that we have to do the same for? So is there a number petition where we say that number now means that the town council will step in and build? It's just what the other roads and stuff where the speeding may need to do.
Councillor Stanthorpe.
Chair. Yeah, just following on from Councillor Two's, we have obviously put in SIDS in place across Taunton. So hopefully that's what we would use to measure in areas where there is speeding. So we use that as the benchmark, I think, rather than saying it's the number of a petition, because petitions can be manipulated. Actually taking records of speed on a road will show it. And for the sense of things, you know, Eastwick Road is bad, and I'm quite sure if there's a SID there, it will show there's a problem, and that then we can qualify for going to a 20-mile-an-hour limit. Yep, that would be a feeling.
Thank you, Councillor Stanthorpe. Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you. No, I was just going to echo Councillor Two's point. I'm meeting with two residents in my ward on Friday morning who've been petitioning for and lobbying to get a zebra crossing for children to cross Troll Road to get to Parkfield School.
Yes,
and that's been going on for a long time, and also it boundaries on your ward as well,
yes,
Madam Chair. So I think that, you know, there has to be some. This is the tip of the iceberg, I think, and I think if, you know, if this is something that we're going to have to look at as a town council, then we need to have a structure, a policy in place to look at all the different issues. But absolutely, with the Eastwick Road, it sounds horrendous. There's no question about that. Thank you.
I think you're right. Thank you, Councillor Fernandez. Thank you. And Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, I strongly support Tom's proposal about Eastwick Road. I think, yes, ultimately we need a more strategic approach, but I don't want these guys, they've done an incredible job. This is a big upswell of public opinion based on lived experience, and we need to respond to it. So I really welcome your proposal, Tom. The thing about 20-mile-an-hour is the problem is with the speed indicator devices, they're set on roads at 30. Often, and 30 is not a safe speed in places where people live, work and play and shop. It isn't. All of the international road experts, safety experts say this. It's not safe. So you can't just take the SIDS because you can be going between 20 and 30. It's not safe. It has to be under 20 to be safe. Obviously, Somerset Council don't understand that, selectively don't get that. So I do think if you were asking people, you know, do you want the speed limits reduced? In North Town, the answer will be a resounding yes, please, please. There's a desperate desire for it, but so we do need a sort of a broader approach. But I think what we can't do is leave people hanging when they've gone to all of this trouble to do all of that work. And there's a very, very strong community groundswell. I really am in favour of pushing ahead. And similarly, I'm going to go up one day this week and have a look at the troll scenario, because those kids are going to school in my division and they're trying to get there safely. And we will end up with a very long list of stuff. And we will just have to kind of like stack things up and shift things through and see how we can get things funded for the benefit of residents.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. Thank you. Councillor Smith-Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. from my point of view, I welcome this going to committee. I do think that we need a strategic approach though, because there are many roads in Taunton that I think need looking at. I'm also wondering just whether prior to it going to committee that the SID could be installed if possible in that road, because otherwise we're making a decision without the data that we know that we can gather, because we've got the tools in our toolkit already. So I don't want to delay it, but I'm just wondering if there is something that we can do to have a even more informed approach that will then help guide us, and whether there is another meeting with highways at Somerset Council to talk about some of the challenges in the different roads around speeding, so that we can use their knowledge as well.
So that's a good idea. Thank you. Thank you. And Councillor Fraschini?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I support that something clearly needs to be done on Eastwick Road, and that there needs to be a more of a strategic look at it all. I'm not too sure if the SIDs are going to be the right way to go, because I think you probably need the actual speed tests installed by the council, which will give you a better understanding of what it is. I think they install a box somewhere and some sort of laser and that's how they judge it on. So you'd obviously have to pay for that, and that's also quite expensive to do. My only concern with this is just thinking about how much it costs to get a crossing putting in on Bosington Drive. And if you were to get the speed humps and 2 crossings put in, you're looking at in excess of £200,000, I'd imagine. So plus if you reduce the speed limit as well, and you've got to pay for that on top. If without any strategic view in place, this is going to be very expensive for this council, and then suddenly you could find there are literally no money left for anything else, because people will expect that they are having it in their area. You did it over here, we need it here, and suddenly you open up a can of worms. So I do think that a full cost needs to be looked at, and at the grand plan before we make any decision, because inevitably you can already say off the top of your head it's going to cost 6 figures. So to spend money on feasibility studies and things like that, whether or not we can afford to do it because we have a budget, would that be the right way to spend money if we know we couldn't afford to do it? I'm guessing money would have to come from SEAL or something as well to pay for this, but money's not for it. You know, we don't have endless amounts of money, so I do worry that we will then start taking things away from other areas.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Councillor Deacon.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't disagree with what anything that anyone has said. I might not have been clear in my language. What I would like us to do, to Councillor Fraschini's point actually, is to go and get indicative costings from. We need to work out exactly how much these sorts of things do cost, and have a bit of an indicative price list, because at the moment we don't really have anything. So if we, at least on this scheme, were to put it to something else, to go broadly, how much would you cost the feasibility? How much would you cost the works out if it was to be done? At least it gives us a ballpark to know which kind of split. To your point, I agree with you. We're operating in to then decide what a decision might look like. I'm slightly nervous. We do need the strategic view, but if the strategic view and getting there takes us 4 years, or just as an indicative, that's what I worry about. There's a really fine balance between making things happen where they clearly need to happen, and also having the strategic view. And if you go one way on that or the other, actually you end up getting nothing done, or it's too piecemeal. So I do think we need to walk a fine line, but I wonder if this is just a test case to start walking that line, see how much the costings are looking like, and then we'll have a broad indication of what implication that would have on us as a council in other places as well in the town. That was my suggestion, but I'm happy to take members' steer. I just think we've got 2 members of the public who've worked incredibly hard on a very large petition, and if we don't take forward any action off the back of it today, I will be immensely disappointed.
Yeah, yes, I mean, I totally be in agreement with you that something has to be done. It's clear, but we need a good overview of the situation, which is very important. Yeah, I think so too.
Just to be clear, I agree things need to be done. My point is, I guess I've got to put you all in the picture. I've got several residents on Cannon Street who want exactly the same thing. They want 20 miles an hour. So how, as a council, do we go, we agree with that, but we don't agree with this? They can't, we can't have the seats installed on Cannon Street because there's only one lamppost. So I have to go back to them. They may watch this meeting back. So as a councillor for Victoria, I have to justify why we're doing certain things for some residents and not others. But totally agree, when the groundswell is so high, we have to look to act.
Councillor Randis.
I'll throw this out there. You could do an experimental TRO applying to a big chunk of Taunton. That might ought to get a costing for that, because that would allow you to try it out. It would allow you to cover all the areas where we know residents want it. I'm just throwing that out as a possibility because it will mount up if we're doing street by street. And the problem with having a 20 then that ends is the message to drivers is speed up now. It's all right now. You have the 20, you can speed up. So you're just, you know, you're not tackling the kind of cultural barrier. So I just throw that out there as an idea.
Councillor West.
Thank you, Chair. Listen to what everybody's saying, and this feels like following on from Tom's proposal. This is actually two actions or two future actions on the council. One is to potentially use the Eastwick Road as a pilot, where we can gather indicative costs and also action the actual activity. And then the second action being the more discussion about the more strategic view, and one could then inform the other. Yeah.
Councillor Isaacs.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would totally agree with Councillor Ellis on this. I think we ought to look at a whole blanket of 20 mile an hour across the whole of Taunton. Everybody seems to have problems in their own boarding areas. And I think it would just, with the number of cars parked on side streets now and children, you know, coming out from behind, it would be safer totally for, and I think that probably would be worth considering looking at as well, rather than bits here and there. Just a point.
Sorry, very briefly. What I thought that might help is when the relevant committee discusses this, maybe we could invite a member of the highways team from Somerset Council to come along and discuss some of these issues, and they might give a sense of how the best way for us to approach it, whether it is blanket or individual. I think that might be helpful. I think we should put that request in.
That's a good idea. Good idea. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Stroud.
Just like to follow on from Councillor Isaac's comment. I visited our twin town in Normandy last year, and that's exactly what they do. In every town in Normandy is 20 miles an hour as you approach the town centre. Everybody knows this, and at the beginning they had a lot of moans, but now that's the norm and it's completely accepted. So I think a lot of it is what we're used to, but it does happen.
Thank you very much. I think we have to move on because we've got so many items on tonight's agenda.
Councillor Pollard indicated he wants to speak.
Sorry, Councillor Pollard.
All I wanted to do was follow on and say that I agree with Councillor Deane, and Eastwick Road is in my ward, and obviously I only got elected in February, and the main thing that I heard in the immediate area around it was that their biggest concern was about that road and how they didn't feel safe. And some people would say they want to take their children up to the park, but they didn't feel safe because like the resident who brought the petition, they've heard stories about people getting collected going along that road as well. So I think it is very important. But my ward also goes all the way over to Kingston Road, and I heard about people being concerned about speeding and how fast everyone's driving, even over there. So I think it is something that is all over Taunton.
Yeah.
Like everyone else.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's something obviously we need to look at there. Thank you. Anyway, are we okay to move on to the deputy mayor nominations? This is item 12. Members are asked to consider the deputy mayor nominations and recommend a candidate to be nominated. In fact, we've all considered it, and we've done that, and the council received one nomination for deputy mayor from Councillor Nick O'Donnell and Councillor Rob Isaacs to nominate Councillor Beth Fernandez as our new deputy mayor. So could I invite either Councillor O'Donnell or Councillor Isaacs to speak for up to 3 minutes on why they decided to nominate Councillor Beth Fernandez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I do it well?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So I won't take 3 minutes because everyone nominated. But I've been working with Councillor Fernandez now for the last year. I'm her vice chair, and she's run the community place wonderfully. She's a very good chair, which is, of course, the role that we are electing her for. So I think this is a natural step up for her. She's been my vice chair at Ops and Assets for the last year, and she's been a tremendous support, always positive, always looking to be contributory, and always looking to be constructive. I think with her role as the Armed Forces chaplain, I think this will fit in wonderfully with being the mayor, because we have a lot of very militaristic engagements when we're thinking about Remembrance Day, and of course next mayoral year, I know you're going to be deputy, but we have both the 80th anniversary of VE Day and, equally important, VJ Day, and I think you mustn't forget that one. And I think you'll be a very good fit for it. And I think you'll work very well. We have a lot of contact, as mayor, speaking from personal experience, we have a lot of contact with the Royal British Legion. And I think they will welcome you with open arms, because of your background with the military and your natural focus on the military. So I would recommend Councillor Fernandez highly to you, and I think she'll be a perfect candidate for the role of deputy mayor and mayor in 2026.
Thank you, Councillor. But on Councillor Isaacs.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also, another big thing that Bev does is chair the LCN group, and which is a massive thing. And I've had so many good feedback from other groups that I attend and work with. Councillor Strauss and I went to a working group on Tuesday morning, which was very good. And your name was brought up there because so you're very well known and so well done, and I think you do a great job of deputy mayor and then hopefully leading on to mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isaacs. Thank you. I totally endorse those recommendations. Can I now call on candidate Councillor Bev Fernandez to speak for up to 3 minutes and address the suggested questions. What would you bring to the role of deputy mayor and mayor? What would you like to achieve during your time as deputy mayor and mayor? What are your hopes and aspirations? And it says evidence of chairing meetings. I don't think we need to hear about that because we've heard lots about it. So it's just the first two. Bev, if you could please.
I think it's sort of one of those things that could have had questions before the meeting.
Yes.
I think it's I did prepare a little something which I think hopefully will address the questions that you put to me. And I think a lot of people perceive the Mayor of Taunton role to be something that takes up time. I think it does put a lot of people off. And I'm also a very, very busy person. So I've also had to think long and hard before putting myself forward for this. But as I put myself forward to take on the honour of being deputy mayor and subsequently mayor, I'd hope to demonstrate that those following on behind me, that with the help of our civic office team, who are amazing, that underpass mayors and fellow members, that we can it can be achieved within a relatively busy life. I think it shouldn't be a role that puts people off, and it's an incredibly important role because the mayor effectively is the face of the town council. And we encourage businesses, we promote the voluntary sector, and equally, but also very importantly, is that we have a duty under the Local Government Act to be the chair of the town council, which is an incredible important role. And we've got lots of things to think about as mayors and chairs, that we've worked together with our wonderful town clerk to make sure that what we're doing is making proper legal decisions. It's not sort of about sitting and making sure that we all stick to the agenda. There's lots of officialdom that goes behind it. And if elected, which hopefully I will be, if you all vote for me, as the Armed Forces champion for the Town Council, I will proudly continue to strengthen those links with our forces, with both serving and non-serving in our town parish. And you know, I'd like to think I've got good networking schemes and skills, and I think it's about, again, working with businesses, working with our Taunton, you know, the Chamber of Commerce, local businesses, all the businesses, and promoting our town council, and also promoting them to our town council. I look forward to supporting our incoming mayor, Councillor Martin Strauss, as he begins his role as the chair and ambassador of the town council for this forthcoming municipal year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fernandez. I think we've had a proposer and a seconder. I think we can move straight to the vote. So could I have a show of hands, please? Everyone in favour? I think that's unanimous. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I say a few words?
Of course.
I will be very brief, but I just want to say how delighted I am that we voted for Bev as our Deputy Mayor next year. Now, last year, when we were a brand new council and I was chair of what was then community services, we had a problem because both Bev and I, Bev was the vice chair, we had a problem with that particular evening, but between us, we managed to make sure every meeting was properly chaired. And when the two committees were split, as they are this year, to community in place and ops and assets, because of the volume of work, Bev has really stood up to the plate and done so much. And I just want to personally congratulate you. I think you will be a wonderful deputy mayor, and I will look forward very much, assuming I'm elected in May, because I have to formally be elected. I do look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
And I would like to endorse that as well, Councillor Fernandez. I think you will do a splendid job. And anyway, from now on, Councillor Bev Fernandez will be the nominated candidate for Deputy Mayor and will be named on the agenda for the annual meeting of Town Council on the 6th of May 2025, sorry. Right, moving on to item 13 then. Congratulations, Bev. It's the LCAS application gold, and I call on Bryony Cole to introduce the item.
Thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Fernandez. So the report is in the pack. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look through it, and I will keep this brief. So Taunton Town Council successfully applied for the Silver Local Council Awards Scheme Awards in January. And this is our natural next steps, is to apply for that gold level award. The evidence is outlined in the report, and one of the items of evidence that I need to submit is our resolution by full council that documentation and information is in place for this award. I have also outlined in the report some of our local councils who have also received the award. So local to us is Freeham Council and Crewkern Council, who have already received gold, and I would hope that our next step should be to submit our entry fee on approval, and I'm happy to take any questions.
So members actually are for this one, we need members to note the benefits and opportunities offered by this scheme, that they align with the council's vision and mission, and will ultimately contribute to the enhanced reputation and improved provision of service for residents. Members are to confirm that all documentation and information is in place for the Gold Award. And for us to, sorry, so Deacon, would you're proposing it?
We're just going to say just very briefly.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Okay, sorry, ma'am. I didn't want to interrupt your flow. Initially, I was fully supportive of this. I'm just, I don't know if I have to just to note the thanks to the team for winning the Silver Award as well. Yes. In such a short period of time, to go from having not existed with no office, very few members of staff, to then what we are now, to still have achieved that award that demonstrates the governance and the procedures and strategies in place behind the scenes that make sure we're doing the right things. It's a real achievement, and the fact that we're on the edge of going for the gold already. And you look at the list, there aren't many councils in Somerset who have achieved that, and they've been around for decades. So I think it's a huge testament to our team. I'm delighted that we're going for this gold award, and let's hope for the best when we get the results down the line.
Yeah, I agree. It's testimony to a lot of hard work. Yeah, lots of hard work. Yeah. So could I have a proposer, please, for this? Thank you, Councillor Amber Hughes. Amber Packer Hughes. I can't read from here. And I need a seconder as well, please. Thank you, Councillor Pollard. And could I have a show of hands? Yeah, I think that's unanimous. Thank you. So moving on, seal approval, Maidenbrook Country Park. And I call upon Councillor Ray Tully to introduce the item.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I was the chair, or I am the chair of Finance and Governance. This item came up before us on the 4th. I stepped down and made it clear that I wouldn't take any vote on it because I'm a member of West Monkton Parish Council and I felt it's not quite right. We debated it. What West Monkton actually wanted was not found to be acceptable. What one of our other councillors, Councillor Burnham, suggested was, and I'll get the figures right, is 28,000. And let me bring this to you and ask you if you would like to go ahead. Before you do that, I'd like to say one or two things. I couldn't say anything. I didn't speak on it before. In my opinion, it's the best thing for the town. There's a lot of people from a number of our wards use that park, and also the Somerset Wood, which maybe not all of you understand what that is. There's a memorial wood as well being built there, which will go part into West Monkton Parish Council's area to commemorate the dead of the First World War, of people who died in the uniforms of Somerset, not necessarily Somerset people born, but uniforms of Somerset. I'll recommend it unless the officers want to say more about it.
Thank you, Councillor.
I want to hand over to.
Oh yes, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that. In the balance of presenting a balanced argument, I think that councillors should note that within West Monkton Parish Council's budget, they have uncommitted still to the tune of £282,612 that they could commit to this project should they want to. Whilst I agree that it's a good opportunity for Taunton Town Council to express partnership working, in that it's working with both Cheddon, Fitzpaine Parish Council and West Monkton Parish Council, I believe that councillors should be made aware that there is funding elsewhere from alternative sources that could be made available towards this project.
Thank you. Councillor Smith Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. I always find it interesting as to the funding of kind of major institutions, and some might not class country park as a major institution, because, but in my word it is, I'm trying to find the right word that I would use for it instead of that, in the fact that people move all around, and I think Councillor Tully alluded to this. So I am supportive of this within reason, because of the fact that people may live next door to it, and not people who are our residents don't look at the boundaries on a map and go, I live in this ward and I'm just going to stay within this area. People move around because they like to use different facilities that are in different areas. So I'm definitely open-minded to this. However, if we're going to start funding elements that sit outside of our town council's borders, because we can argue that people are going to use them, then I think that there needs to be some form of reciprocal arrangement. And I'm not saying that it has to be in writing, but when we do the toilets up, and you all know how much I love the toilets, people who use our toilets don't come necessarily from the urban area of the town centre. when we give funding to the brew house, not everyone that goes to the brew house comes from Taunton. Not everyone who uses the facilities that sit within the town council's area as the largest urban conurbation within the county all come from the area. So all I'm saying is that fine, it's £28,000. It's a very small amount. It goes towards a park that is doing great things. I don't know whether all of my residents within Blackbrook and Holway or even Taunton East go there. There's no data to stipulate it either way. However, it does put on events. It is looking, I think, to do something for VJ Day and the commemorations of the 80 years. However, I just think that we need to be mindful that when we touch out of borders, that actually we need to have conversations around tying people in the other way.
Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts. Thank you. A good point. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of this. Obviously, I voted in favour of it on committee, and I do think it is a resource for the whole town. It's so close to Maidenbrook, and it's their biggest green space area. And I just think, you know, I'm blessed to live right next door to Frenchweir and Long Run, one of the other country parks. And oh my gosh, so we've got the Maidenbrook residents. It's walkable from Priorswood, great areas of Priorswood, which is one of our most disadvantaged areas. So I'm thinking this is ticking a lot of boxes for me, and it's a great event space. There's a great, it's open to all sorts of groups. You can go and use it if you want to have a picnic with your, I don't know, your autism friends group or my home ed group. Probably go and have a nice picnic up there. I think it's a great resource for the town. I sort of see it as part of sort of Greater Taunton, and I like the fact that we've worked with Cheddar and West Monkton, and I know West Monkton have put a lot of money into, you know, they're doing a lot of the legwork, the donkey work, and they've put an awful lot of resource into it, and they were quite, you know, they fully expected us to not potentially be able to give the full amount, and they seemed very, very pleased that we wanted to make a contribution. So they are putting quite a lot of money into it, and just in terms of the time as well, because Cheddar being so small, they've had to. So I just see this as a really nice positive thing for us to be doing it. I don't have any qualms about it. I wish we could give more, maybe later we can, but for now I think it's a lovely practical way of us enhancing a facility that will definitely be used widely by Taunton residents, whether it's a dog walking, educational purposes, well-being, or to celebrate, you know, incredible events that get put on there.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Fraschini.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, fully support what Councillor Ellis just said there. Just to bring a point of clarity, that the country park actually resides in Cheddar-Fitzpaine, not West Monkton, this is very much in its infancy. This park, what it is going to be in a decade's time is something completely different. It's going to house the Poppy of Honour, which is a great view for the town. It's going to have the Somerset Woods and the war memorials there for 11,000 service personnel who lost their lives in the First World War. It's got educational purposes there. They're looking at other things like amphitheatres and all sorts of things that will bring the town people from far and wide, not just from Taunton, but from far and wide as well. That's why I've put my name to the document in support of Maidenbrook Country Park, and I'm glad that we can support it in some way. Obviously, the £84,000 for the committee was a bit too far of a stretch. So, as Tesco says, every little helps. Just to give it some context as well, obviously this is part of Cheddar-Fitzpaine, which fell in the Cheddar-Fitzpaine border when Maidenbrook was in it. The money allocated from precepts and things that they forward planning was obviously from the Maidenbrook ward, which is obviously now taken out of Cheddar and into the Taunton Town Council. So I do think, as you said, you shouldn't be looking at borders. Residents don't look at borders. This is just a great asset and will be the absolute jewel in Taunton's crown in a decade's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Preskin. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to echo all the sentiment that Councillor Fraschini has just said there. I remember a few years ago that there was a plan to put an observatory there, and I was going to ask Councillor Tully how that was progressing, because he's from Monkton Parish, but just been reminded, of course, it's in Cheddar-Fitzpaine, so I won't. So, but that's the sort of thing that would really add value to Taunton, and I think Maidenbrook Park will really add value to Taunton. So I really do support this proposal. And if there's any chance that we can have an observatory at some point, because that'd be a great educational institution there for all our children across this town. Love gazing at the stars, and it'd be a great asset to have. So it is a good asset. I think, as Councillor Frislini has just said, it will be a jewel in our crown.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Chair. I've been quite involved with this for the last 12 years or more, perhaps, being Vice Chair of Cheddenford Spain Parish Council. Totally agree what everybody said, and because of Hestercombe House and the bats and the dark sky sort of policy, there would be very good for an observatory. I know Councillor Tully was very involved as well, District Council for West Monkton, so we've got a lot of history in it there, so I thoroughly support it. There's a few areas or questions it's quite specific for the amount of money what's going to be spent on, and I see it's a 3-year plan, and we're already several months into that. It's started on the 1st of September. I would have hoped that we could have seen some sort of outline plan to where these benches and the car park and some of the other infrastructure of pathways for, it's obviously less able persons to get access to the park, which is totally needed. We've had some really good events up there already, and I just think I would like to see more detail and more involvement from us in that. If we're spending the money, I'd like us to be quite involved with seeing how this is going to progress, so that our monies are well spent. And my current ward is quite a long way away, so I want to make sure that where possible that they can have access to it and is publicised for the events that's going to take place. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deacon.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in full support of the recommendation that the Finance Governance Committee put forward. This is an amazing community asset. I know personally I enjoy it. I think my Springer Spaniel enjoys it a bit more than me as well, running around. So it really is an important community space that does amazing things for the local area. I hope that as we kind of move forward, this is an indication of the partnership work we want to see. So talking about the reciprocal arrangements with a space like this, it is a brilliant event space. So I would hope that West Monkton Parish Council and Cheddenford Spain Parish Council would work with the Town Council if we wanted to maybe put on events and things in that space and be able to utilise it as well as one of our extended green spaces around the area. A huge amount of hard work has gone in from the volunteers. I've had the honour of being able to join the volunteers a couple of occasions up there, and they do an amazing job. So I'm in full support of us giving them this allocation of self-funding.
Thank you, Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say we've already been heavily involved there, because at the Somerset commemoration of the military occasion last year in November, I deputised for the mayor, laying a wreath there on behalf of Taunton Town Council, even though it wasn't Taunton Town Council's patch. We're heavily involved with it already. It is seen to be an extended part of the town, and I quite agree that we should be taking our share. It shouldn't be seen as somewhere separate. It's all part of our Taunton conurbation, and that's the way the public see it, and I'm in full support of the proposal.
Thank you. Can we go on to the vote then, please? Members to consider. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tully.
You were trying.
But you have to be the last one there, because we need to move.
I am going to be the last
Okay,
one.
thank you.
We'll not
Thank
talk
you.
for too long.
Thank you, Councillor Tully.
Right, there's one or two things. The officer has said that West Monkton have 200,000 from still money. They do, but they also want one or two large projects going. The Swartz field is one of them, which is going to take a lot of their money. Second thing, they've been raising money from different organisations, including the lottery. The third thing, as Councillor Isaac said, he'd like to see more being done. Well, there is a lot. The the disabled car park is now going ahead. They're also talking about the benches and the ways of the plans are all there now to make a start. They will probably be starting very soon. So, you know, the money is not going to be wasted. It's going to be it's going to be well, I can't put it, a golden star for Taunton. Yes, it's in it's in Cheddar, and yes, it's West Mountain, but it will be the whole of this part of Somerset, and we should all be proud of it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Thank you. So can we move to a vote now? Members to consider the recommendation from the Finance and Governance Committee to approve the use of £28,000 of SIL funding for Maidenbrook Country Park. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Isaacs, and the seconder, Councillor Pollard, and a show of hands, please. Yeah, that's pretty unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 15, which is the speed indicator devices. And it's Councillor Tully to introduce the item.
Thank you. This is by, get it right, 3 more SID units, which you've heard this evening, we need them. So I think it's a non-brainer. I think we do need to spend money on them. And I disagree with 1 or 2 of our councillors that say that SID units aren't really the right thing. They are. You get the idiot that tries to beat and go faster than they necessarily need to. But most people, when they see it go red, they will slow down. We know that because, again, I'm saying West Monkton has 2 of them and it works. So I think the officer might want to say something about it financially.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, this is a proposal for 3 more SIDs to the value of £7,158.35 for the purchase of 3 more indicator devices. Within the actual SID application, it will detail those locations. I believe there's 18, potentially 19 different locations. It will enable us to collect a whole range of data on vehicles that are speeding, what sort of speeds they're going, and help to try and see what key areas will need varying speed limits and things like that. It's a nice project in terms of that. We've also had accounts from various people to say that it visibly stops speeding when they're there. So there is, and the data that collects so far, albeit very minimal data, actually displays that it does have an effect and reduces speeding too.
Thank you. Councillor Pollard.
I just wanted to say, so my day job is I'm a lorry driver, and I can attest that the speed indicator devices are really good, because sometimes when you've been driving all day, you'll kind of lose focus and you might end up going a bit faster. And then when you see it flashing, it makes you slow down, which is way better than anything else, because like a speed camera or something, you'll get flashed by it, but then that's it. Whereas that kind of is a lot better, making you aware that you're going too fast. And then it always makes me end up slowing down. And I've spoken to my colleagues about it, who are also obviously lorry drivers, and they say the exact same thing. So they are really good.
Useful insight. Thank you. Councillor Smith-Roberts. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm just wanting to find out how we add places onto the list, because I note that Hamilton Road, Blackbrook Way and Leisure Way aren't on the list yet. I thought they were in the first submission originally, and then I'm also wondering, not part of this submission, but when we look to go for the next round, not for those 3, how much does it cost to install a pole in Cannon Street, as an example? If it's another conversation with the highways team and we're able to put a pole in the ground, and probably it's not that simple and it probably is expensive, but just wondering whether we can have conversations with them about indicative costs, so that when we need to look at other roads in the round, we can have those conversations. I think we've now solved the issue where we can now put them on lights again, where there was a bit of confusion over that. But I would be like to see those 3 areas put on the potential list, and to find out around Cannon Street.
Thank you. Thank you for those suggestions. Thank you. Councillor Spade, sorry, because we're waiting a while.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, fully supportive of having more sits and multiple reasons. One, that has been short proven that they do slow down people on average, towns and villages. They are very much, they do help. But what's also I think really important about them is that they can be moved around, so we can move into different parts of Taunton. So it's not fixing something in one place that only benefits one part of Taunton or one ward. These can be moved around to see where the problems are. And as much as, yes, it's if you go to the police, they would say to reduce the speed limit, they have to have a certain amount of data showing over 30 miles an hour. But what the data allows us to see is where there is speeding taking place. And also then as to whether we as a town council then do something about that. And I think that's where the huge value is. We can move them around and local residents can see that they're eating.
That's true. Yeah, thank you. Sorry,
Hi, so just some supplementary information. Yes, we've put a number of locations forward to Somerset Council Highways, who have now agreed the majority of those locations. The approximate cost of putting an individual pole in is about 320 quid. The reason for that is because they have to undertake the surveys of buried services, etc., to enable safe digging. We would need to be sure that those locations are worthwhile spending that money, because the SID can only be in place in any location for 2 weeks at a time. I know we've got 3 out there, and I know they've been there a little while longer, but it's purely by default because we've been waiting for the authorizations for the other locations. So I've put forward a schedule of dates, which we'll be publishing on our website very shortly, which have been accepted in those locations. And there are in total 40 locations when you consider that this is 20 spots around the town, but the SID has the option of showing both directions of road travel. So we double that up. It's 40 separate 2-week blocks where the SID will be in use. This proposal is to extend the existing 3 that we have to a total of 6, so we can capture that data more effectively and quicker, and then analyse that to see where the actual real problems lie, and then we can focus on those. But initially, from a starting point of 0, increasing the numbers of SIDs will allow us to capture data across a broader area of Taunton and be able to analyse that data to see what those next steps might be. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the information. Councillor Tully, you want to say something?
Yes, the other thing I should have mentioned, that happens in West Monkton. West Monkton have 2 of the SIDs. If we get a very bad report, as you can get, which I'd like to see the council to have a copy of some of the reports of the SIDs. They can be pulled off. Those reports can also go to the police. If the police think we have a real reason why speeding's going up, like this gentleman was saying, they will then start putting cameras in their own cars there. They did it in West Monkton. People know there's not good saying there's a SID that they just ignore it. It's saying put up by the council. If the council says we're not going to put up with your speeding, we'll let the police deal with it, and it does work. People do think about it. So yes, it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Paul.
So thank you, Councillor Tully. Just for information, I am liaising with the police. I've discussed the SIDs with them, and if we find any particular hotspots, we will certainly go back to them and work with those agencies who can take far more drastic action than we can. But for us, it's about data gathering. We do intend to publish that data once we understand it, and we've only had 3 SIDs in 3 locations so far. But once we have an understanding of what that data looks like and which bits of that will be valuable to members of the public and to yourselves, then we intend to publish that data in some format on the website as well for information. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we move to a vote now, please? So members are asked to consider the recommendation from the Finance and Governance Committee to approve the use of up to £7,158.35 to purchase speed indicator devices. I need a proposer, please. Councillor O'Donnell, and seconder, Councillor Pollard. Show of hands, please. That looks pretty unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is the Road Safety Initiative. And again, it's Councillor Ray Tully to introduce the item.
This is to ask the council if that seal money can be used at the value of £10,000 towards this initiative. I'm going to leave it at that for now.
To that.
Yes.
So yeah, so this is a project that concerns the reduction of the speed limit along the stretch of the 838 around Bromwell, primarily because of the 50 miles an hour and 40 miles an hour limit approaching the Orchard Grove junction, continuing eastwards through Stone Gallows to the crematorium entrance, finishing at the Silk Mills roundabout. The project would reduce the limit along these roads to 13 miles an hour. The reason that this was put forward initially is because crash map data shows that there were over 50 accidents on this section of road between 2014 and 2022. And in addition to that, since 2022, there have been frequent calls from residents on a number of further accidents. Additionally, paragraph 42 on government guidance on the setting of local speed limits states where several roads with different speed limits enter a roundabout should be restricted to the same level as the majority of the approach roads. If there is an equal division, for example, where a 30-mile-an-hour road crosses one with a 40-mile-an-hour road, the roundabout itself should take the lower limit. And therefore, as the Silk Mills roundabout contains 3 adjoining 30-mile-an-hour speed limit roads, it would be in accordance with national government guidance to reduce the speed limit to 30 miles an hour on those roads.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. Councillor Fern.
Yes, I'd like to propose we do the recommendation, obviously because there are going to be so many more residential houses bordering that road, and you're gonna have families cross over sometimes, so it just makes perfect sense to reduce it down to 30, even though just the money we have to put into it.
Thank you. So, Councillor Ellis.
Yes, I think this is a no-brainer, really. I mean, it's so vital. We've got so many kids who need to get across the road safely and then get on their way to school from Orchard Grove. And people say, I've had a lot of correspondence from people who live along the way, including Taunton residents, who say that it's so bad that their houses shake, they can feel their houses rumble. I mean, it's horrible. And then you've got the crash map data showing you that this will actually save lives. So we just need to crack on, and it's great to be working in partnership with the Bishop's Hall as well.
Councillor Stonethorpe.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the road, basically Wellington Road is on the Comitrol boundary, so the ward that I sit in. That road is particularly dangerous. The traffic was far too fast. It is an urban area. It is built up around it. There are houses right on the road, and now with Orchard Grove, which I think will eventually reach 2,000 homes, the traffic coming through Wellington Road is much heavier and is going to get even heavier. And crossing, especially at the top of Jeffreys Way, there is a blind bend with a 40-mile-an-hour limit. You take, and it's where the path crosses the road. One side of the road, the path stops, and it starts the other side. You take your life in your own hands when you cross that road, and it's only going to be a matter of time before somebody is either seriously injured or killed. And we have, and we have been able to prevent that. So I'm certainly support it. Thanks.
Yeah, right. Councillor Tully.
Just finish off with, this is the right way still should be used for the people of Taunton, for the people visiting Taunton and the people using the roads. It's the correct thing in the right place. We all vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. So can we move to vote then? Members are to consider the recommendation from the Finance and Governance Committee to approve the use of up to £10,000 of SIL money for the road safety project. So could I have a proposer? Councillor Lester, Councillor Ellis, seconder, and a show of hands, please. Yeah, I think that's everybody. Yes, thank you. And moving on then to item 17, EMR movements, which is moving money from earmarked reserves, shown on the report. And Councillor Tully, it's you again.
I'm not going to. I'm going to ask the financial officer. You can explain it all.
This report's already been considered by the Finance and Governance Committee, who recommended. Basically, it's to revise the staff budget for the remainder of the year spent due to the fact that although council agreed that we could increase the budgets, recruitment hasn't taken place as quickly as we'd anticipated. So there's surplus there, and there are figures in the paper showing the revised budget for the remainder of the year. With that, there's a surplus then of 170,000, of which I'm proposing we, or Finance and Governance Committee, recommended that we transfer 150,000 to the staffing EMR to cover future potential increases in staff costs, including the National Pay Award, and move monies to the Employee Benefits System budget, which agreement was given to move monies from that staffing EMR earlier in the year, but I anticipated there would be sufficient available in the budget to enable us to make a requirement, and also to cover the contractor temporary staff, which we've had to use for facilities assistant shortfall. In addition to that, there are a number of earmarked reserves that are in that paper that are to be made to cover future projects and forecast expenditure. In total, the movements to earmark reserve at the year end will amount to 1.131 million. The members are asked to consider revising the budgets for staff costs and making the movements as proposed to the earmarked reserves.
Are there any questions about this one? Thank you, Veronica.
I'm sorry for the questions tonight. My only question is just where I noted that we had to use some temporary staff contractors. Is that whilst we were going out for recruitment for the facilities assistants, and are we almost there completed now? Because I'm not one for agency staff really.
Do you want me to?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so it was a temporary measure. There still might be some instances going forward. We're still a facilities assistant down. We've also got the open spaces coming to us on the 1st of April. So there could be some temporary contractors that we would need in the meantime while the recruitment's taking place.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to vote on this one then, please? Members are to consider the recommendation from the Finance and Governance Committee to revise the budget for staff costs as shown in the report and make movements to earmarked reserves as shown in the report. And for that, I need a proposer. Thank you, Councillor Furman, and a seconder, Councillor Ellis, and a show of hands, please. Yes, I think that's everyone. Right, moving on to item 18, which is fees and charges. See a long list of items, and I don't know whether you want me to read through them first.
You can read it.
Okay, I'll read through it first. And then members are asked to consider the fees and charges as set out in Appendix A. And members are asked to note the approach to charging and the situations in which a reduced fee or no fee will be charged. Members are asked to consider that where opportunities present themselves to alter the fees payable for a block booking or a number of bookings over a period of time, that the town clerk or deputy town clerk be given delegated authority to make the amendments and agree a booking. To note the work proposed for 2025, which give the council a better understanding of costs of provision. Members are asked to consider seeking land valuations for our allotments and to delegate the recommendations from the reports to the Ops and Asset Committee to determine our approach. Members are asked to consider that the council look to let out the committee room at the rates and approach set out in Appendix B, and that a further report is made after 6 months to update members on take-up and usage. It's about making money really out our assets. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think just to clarify, when this was presented to Finance and Governance, there was a little bit of confusion about the charges. Councillor Fassini in particular raised some concerns, and I do want to be honest with members and say that in actual fact, the charges that we had assumed we would be putting forward for 25-26, what we have actually found is in actual fact the 24-25 charges weren't actually implemented, although that you agreed them in December 23, they weren't implemented. Not overly sure of the reasons why. So in actual fact, the charges before you tonight represent the charges that we would have put in place for 24-25, if that makes sense. The other issue as well is that, again, Councillor Frassini raised was in actual fact our booking system doesn't necessarily allow for lump sums, it likes hourly rates. So the documents, the fees and charges document has been amended to reflect the parks and the sport pitches in particular, where we are charging an hourly rate. And we've also taken into consideration, we've rounded things up a little bit as well to align with that as well. So that's just a bit of background following the confusion at Finance and Governance.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Furman.
Thank you. Based on that information, so are we voting tonight on increasing 5% on 23-24 prices?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Which you'd already voted on because it was 5% last year, so it does align. It's just a bit of confusion on our part, I'm afraid. Okay, thank you.
So this is something that we've already agreed upon already.
Technically speaking, yes, you agreed in the 12th of December 2023. You agreed to increase the fees and charges for 24-25 by 5%. So. Technically speaking, you have made the decision, but I do think it's important that there is some clarity around what's happened, and also obviously the clarity around the move from a lump sum to an hourly rate as well. So
yes, thank you, Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm quite interested in the last item. Members are asked to consider the council look to let out the committee room at the rates and approach set out in Appendix B. Now, I've been looking at the appendices and I can't find proposed rates for the committee room, but I would just like to make the point. There are many community organisations in this town who are desperate for space for committee meetings, particularly during the day. Now, most of the time they'll use church halls, but they're not very satisfactory because in the winter there's no heating. And also, if there's a children's event in the adjoining hall, it interferes with the meeting. And I've had this with quite a number of organisations in the town. I've never mentioned our space here because I didn't think it was actually available for letting, but it would be much appreciated. And maybe we could look at providing some sort of online directory of meeting spaces that would be available during the day in the town. It would be much appreciated by several groups.
I'll see what I can do. In respect of letting, I would just emphasise that we aren't able to do evening bookings. We're only able to do up to 5 o'clock because we obviously have fire. There's fire and health and safety implications. Having set out the discretions in the fees and charges documents, what I have done is also put those in a slightly, probably not quite so broad as fees and charges, but within the letting committee room, there are some discretions for us to let the room out for free as well if we know so need to.
If I could have details, I'd be very grateful. Thank you for that.
Councillor Tully.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just making sure I'm getting this right. We are the 5% is going on 23, 24. Did we make a loss because of that happening?
I don't think we don't do it as that respect. We just take it as a level of income. We don't make whether or not we make a loss. We haven't actually got to the stage where we've worked out whether or not in actual fact the income that we're getting from our fees and charges is actually meeting the cost of providing those services in the first place. That's what we hope to achieve for the 25 review.
So whatever we've got now, that is going to where it's going to stay. So if next year we want to be up by 7% or whatever, it will be of what's now on the books. When
what members will have after the review, what we'll present to members is in actual fact is an overview of what in actual cost to provide some of these facilities, an actual fact, and then members will have what that actually means for fees. So for example, if it costs X amount, it means we're increasing the hourly rate by £4 or £5 an hour, members will have the decision to make as to whether or not they want to endorse that full increase, or whether or not they wish to continue subsidising the letting of the sports pitch or whatever it is that we're talking about. So that review will take fully into consideration what it actually costs us to provide, what that means for our fees, and therefore then members then have a decision to make as to how they wish to then proceed for fees and charges in 26, 27. The aim also is to, I would say as well, as the aim is to also try and simplify our fee structure. A lot of the fees that you have set out at the moment are the historic ones we adopted when we became Taunton Town Council from Somerset Council. So in actual fact, the aim is to try and have a more simplified fee structure. Whether that's cheaper or not, I don't know, but that is one of the aims. But certainly members will be presented with a paper probably in the autumn of this year, setting out the full cost of provision, what that means for the charges, and then they'll be able to debate accordingly as to whether or not they wish us to raise rates or do whatever the report comes back to say.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the work as we made work for you. Unfortunately, from Tuesday, but thank you for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith-Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to vote on this evening. I think for me though, it is about doing that piece of work that looks at actually what things cost, because ultimately if we've missed a year of increases, sadly our costs as a council have gone up, whether that's through the National Pay Award, whether that's through natural inflation. So I just think by doing that piece of work in understanding so that we can aim for full cost recovery, or at least know what it is that we're subsidising, we can then make conscious choices around it. So I'm welcome seeing that piece of work done.
Thank you.
Can I just make a comment? In the budget year currently, we've only earned £10,000 in income car parks.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so could we then move to a vote on this? Could I have a proposer to just, we're ratifying these charges. Sorry, you're proposing it. Right, Councillor Tully and Councillor Firmin seconding. And could I have a vote, please? Yeah, it looks pretty unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great. Moving on to item 19, which is the allowances. Members to consider and to approve the uplift in councillor basic allowance for 25-26 to £1,614, an increase of £64 from the current basic allowance of £1,550 per annum. It's in line with the recommendation of the Somerset Council Independent Remuneration Panel to Somerset Council being considered on the 5th of March 2025, that the basic allowance is increased in year in 25-26 at the same percentage increase as Somerset Council Councillor basic allowance. It is proposed to increase further in year in line with the average Somerset Council officer pay award for 2025-26. Yes, Councillor Smith-Roberts.
Sorry, I've just got one question for the clerk, is whether or not we need to sign dispensation to vote for this evening. Only in Somerset Council we had to sign something because we were voting for our own allowances, if that made sense. But that might be a Somerset Council process.
Yeah, I don't think there was no dispensation signed last year when you agreed and voted on it.
And then my second question is, or maybe my comment as well as a question. Ultimately, it's down to individual councillors whether or not they take it. But actually, where it's being looked at by a joint remuneration panel, not by us in the room, this is, I guess, those who are on that remuneration panel saying that that is what the role is and what the remuneration should be. Ultimately, I think they say that 80% of the work's paid and 20% is voluntary when I've been interviewed by them before. So it kind of equates to then how they make up that amount. I never quite work out that councillors are on minimum wage, if that, when we actually add up all the hours that we probably spend doing this. But ultimately, I guess it's for us to decide, even if we put this through tonight, if people aren't feeling comfortable with taking it, that's a personal decision for them to take. But for me personally, don't underestimate the role that we do as councillors. There are many people who can't become councillors because they see a financial barring of being able to do it. So by actually stepping forward and saying value the work that we do, people may not always agree with us, people may always have political differences, but we sit in here standing up for the community, giving up our time with our families, with our friends, not doing the fun things that we look to do, though I do count this as slightly fun, but you know, we give up time doing hobbies, but don't underestimate it and remunerate yourself accordingly, even if you choose then not to take it.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? All right, can we have a proposal then, please? Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts, and a seconder. Councillor Choose, and could we have a vote then? Those in favour? Yes. All those against?
Abstaining.
Abstaining. So we've got 2 abstentions. Vote carried. Thank you. Right. Item number 24, food toilets. And can I call on Brian Nicole to introduce the item?
So this is a report that was drafted by our projects lead, Megan, who's actually working remotely at the moment. So I'm familiar with the report, but just to talk through the outlines of it. So the first item on here is to note the updates to timescales. So the last paper that came to full council in relation to the Paul Street toilets gave a completion date of January 2026. So there is a revision to that in order to bring that date forward. The full details can be found on page 4, but it is now looking at September. The current year completion is what we're working towards. There is also an appendix document on here, which is the plans that have been put forward by our surveyor, which I'll just get that open on my screen. And there is a slight amendment which we put forward, which unfortunately we weren't able to get the plans ready for today, and it is very minor. So the access to the internal toilet cubicle, so next to the ramp, we've requested that the entrance to that cubicle along with the ramp to be brought flush with the side of the external facing cubicle in order to minimise any hidden corners and hopefully discourage any ASB behaviour. And we've also requested that the service area corridor, which runs behind the street facing cubicles, also extends to behind the internal cubicle as well. And we've had confirmation back from our contractor to say that those works are fine to do. So that is the update on the designs. And we would like to agree or get agreement, sorry, to commence tender for contractor and delegation to the town clerk to do that exercise. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, yes.
I can't miss the meeting and not talk about public. So for me, this is another positive step forward. The fact that we are looking to go out to tender, and if you look at that design, what really pleases me about this is the fact that another changing places can go in, so that there is a facility on this side of Taunton, right by the library, where we know that multiple different users access and the ability to have that so that we are providing another place so that we create diversity and welcoming for all that want to use Taunton. For me, moving this forward, you know, to be on site and to complete this hopefully by the end of September is another positive. That's right there, open during the winter period. I'm comfortable with those design changes so that we minimise antisocial behaviour. But again, it's just showing that we value public toilets. We know the benefit they bring. We know that people want to use them when they're out shopping. We know that we've got a more elderly population and that sometimes not knowing where public toilets are mean that people choose not to come into town. So therefore, for me, this is a positive. And, you know, we all have great communication with the clerk. So passing delegated authority over to the clerk and working with myself as chair of public toilet working group, I'm comfortable with that as well.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, no, this comes within my division, and I've been desperate to go to the toilet in the street for quite a long time. So I think this will be very, very widely and warmly welcome. So I really hope we can crack on, get some loos there open by September, because it's as soon as they would close, you have people coming into the library saying, "Oh, where's the nearest place to go to the toilet?" And some people will have stopped going to the library because there is no toilet. And we need people, when people come to Taunton and they arrive and they park, you want to say, "Welcome to Taunton, those fabulous facilities, welcome you, have a pee," or something. You don't want to say, "Oh, it's no new around here, oh, you'll have to go traipsing all the way over there, this is Taunton." No, Taunton needs great public toilets, great public hygiene.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a great aspiration. Councillor Stathorpe.
Yeah, totally support this. Number of elderly residents within my ward who have actually stopped going into the library because there's no public toilets there. A lot of elderly people do use the library, and a library without toilets in it or near it is just crazy. So yes, please can have toilets.
Yes, yes, it's some kind of desperate need, isn't it? Yeah. Councillor.
Thank you. I'm another proud member of Team Toilets. It is one of my favourite things to do. Recently, there was a post on local social media while Councillor Smith-Roberts was on a much needed post-birthday holiday. So I had a lot of fun answering lots of comments, and a huge number of them were about the Paul Street area, people not understanding why they're closed. I'm so thankful we've decided that we're taking these facilities on, because there's a disconnect between the fact that we actually operate all of the other toilets, but not those ones. And I think they are by far the most, I wouldn't say popular, that's the wrong word to use, but most needed facility for that side of town. I think this is going to be a really, really good move. And I think we've got a job of work to do after that about raising awareness of the facilities we do have, because there does seem to be a lack of public awareness of the existing facilities that we have, even the ones that are less good than we would like them to be. But some people aren't even aware that they are there either. So I think as these facilities get upgraded, we can do a lot of really good publicity around the facilities that we have on offer for the public.
Just a quick question, while we're on the subject of toilets, if you're going to just ask a quick question. Hamilton Park, the work was delayed because it was fitted in with Cannon Street. Where are we actually at? Have they started work now?
So I've actually had an update from today, which is since we made a decision around tiles, because there was a change to the tile decision, which I think was discussed at Toilet Working Group last week. And they've advised they've got a delay with their supplier. So we're looking at around 4 weeks. So in order to keep those facilities usable, they haven't started doing the rip out just yet, but I'm chasing an update at the moment.
Thank you so much for that, because residents are asking what the progress is, and it would be so nice to have that, and it won't be long. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Sluss has just beat me to it. But I do have a second question, or not question. I belong to an organisation which deals with tourism, and one of their highest criteria is the toilets. and people take it, it's a serious thing that they think if they haven't got good toilets, people will get back in their cars and disappear. So, yes.
So are we all ready to vote on this? Okay, could I have a proposal, please? Councillor Ellis, seconder, Councillor Pollard, and show of hands, please. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on now, number 21. Again, an item to be introduced by Councillor Tully to consider the recommendation from Finance and Governance Committee to the new calendar of meetings for municipal year.
You've just introduced it, Madam Mayor. There's not much else.
All right, okay, so it was, I think it's just, yes, very straightforward, isn't it? You just accept it. It is what it is. So could I have a proposal, please? Thank you, Councillor Strauss, second, Councillor Pollard, and right, could I show of hands accepting this list of meetings? Thank you very much, unanimous, thank you. Okay. Holly close transfer. No. Sorry, I missed one out, sorry, risk register. 20, yeah, number 22, the risk register, and can I call upon Angela Farmer to introduce this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, two parts of the report. The first part is the revision of the risk management strategy. Obviously, there was one done when you came on an organisation. This just updates that strategy. I think the most important update really is very much around the fact that we've added the risk management process into the strategy. So that's for thought. The other part of the report obviously is the fact that we've started to really move forward and develop the risk register. Members will see attached the risk register, which was reviewed in October. We will start reviewing it more regularly from April, with the intention is to review it every quarter, moving and then reporting every 6 months. Within the report, I've put down a table of an overview of the current register. This is I've done this on the basis that every time I report to you, then we can give you an update and you can start to see the movement in our risk profile. The register is attached. I'm not sure if it's very readable, but I have done a readable version today for you, and I'll make sure that's issued out to you if you so wish. But I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Furman.
Yes, we obviously have within that table you have one red, which is systems and processes. Could you explain to us what makes it within the red?
Basically, a risk, you need to determine the likelihood of a risk happening and the impact of a risk happening. And in particular on systems and processes, if I remember correctly, it is reflecting around a data breach, the risk of a data breach. The intention is when you have a score like that, the intention is to put in actions or controls that will reduce that score. So that's what it means. It means that at the moment the likelihood is high and the impact is high if we have a data breach. Obviously, if we have a data breach, we'll be fine.
Thank you. And any further questions? Councillor Lester.
Sorry, just one. It says that there are no financial implications from the existing risk. Is that, am I reading that correct?
Sorry?
There are no financial implications or resource implications from the.
There's no financial implications in this report. That doesn't mean to say we haven't got financial risk.
I see.
So I'm not asking for £5,000 or anything to have a stellar risk management system or anything like that. So that's what it means. But in respect of financial risk, we do have financial risk here.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, can we then move to a vote? Members to consider and agree the revised risk management strategy, to consider and note the October risk register, and to note the current risks on the register together with their current scores, and to note the approach to monitoring and review set out in the strategy, and to identify any further risks that members feel should be considered by the council. And could I have a proposer, please, for this? Thank you, Councillor Deakin, and seconder, Councillor Smith-Roberts. Thank you, and a show of hands, please. Yes, that's unanimous. Ollie, thank you. Right, moving on to committee membership. Members are to consider appointees for the vacant committee positions and to call on members to see if there is an interest in filling the positions on the committees. Don't know whether you've had a chance to look at the committees, and is there anyone who's Councillor Pollard?
So I would like to join the community in place.
Pollard, would you mind using your the mic?
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like to join the community in place committee and the personnel committee, if possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other volunteers? Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just clarify the position? As Mayor, am I able to attend meetings ex officio?
Yeah.
In which case I would prefer to stand down from formally being on committees next year because of the mayoral commitments, but I will attend meetings as and when I have an opportunity to do so.
Thank you very much to Councillor Pollard for putting himself forward for the Personnel Committee. But just to point out, there is a vacancy on Grants Committee. Obviously, we will have a restructure later on, but if Councillor Strauss will be standing down next year, that will potentially open another spot.
Would Councillor Packer Hughes accept me on the Grants Committee? Of course. Thank you very much. Councillor Fernandez.
No, I don't know whether this is the right time to say, but I'd just like to welcome, as chair of Community in Place, I'd like to welcome Liam to our committee. Welcome.
So just to confirm, that's Councillor Pollard to join the Community in Place Committee and the Personnel, and Councillor Garside to join the Grants Committee. So that's all vacant positions filled at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Deacon.
And just to confirm, this is an interim until we get to the annual meeting in May.
Indeed.
Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. Proposer, please. Okay. Councillor Packer Hughes, and a seconder, please. Councillor Strauss. And could I have a show of hands, please? Unanimous. Thank you. Right. Item 24. Holly Close transfer. Members to consider and approve the heads of terms for the freehold transfer of Holly Close allotments from Somerset Council for £1, nil consideration, and delegate to the clerk the finalisation of the transfer to Taunton Town Council. I mean, I think this is, I don't think we need a lot of discussion, so could I have a proposal? Oh, sorry.
I just got a quick question on this, and I think actually it works for both councils, is around just making sure the local member is aware. I don't think I got an email to tell me this, I may have done, but it's just around that when we're doing stuff in each of our wards that we're kept up to date. I also don't think Somerset Council have told the Somerset councillor that this is happening, so it just helps if we can keep those communication lines open. But I may have missed an email.
No, that's a good point. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, could I have a proposer for the Holly Close transfer, please? Councillor Tully, and could I have a seconder? Councillor O'Donnell, and the show of hands, please. Yes, unanimous again. Thank you very much.
We are going to need to vote for a time.
Right. Could we now vote for a time extension? Thank you, Councillor Vernon, proposer, and Councillor Lester, seconder, and a show of hands, please. Thank you very much. And moving on then to the Vivery Park gate closure. There's a lot of discussion about this. So could I call on Donna Smith to introduce this item?
This was full grants item. So this, obviously, the council agreed last year to fund the closing of the gates at Vivery Park. That funding obviously will come to an end at the end of March. They also agreed that as soon as possible, we would take the closure in-house, which took place, I think, was it last a week or so ago now. So that's being done with our team. This is for consideration, obviously, going forward into the next financial year. There is no budget set aside for the contractors that was originally doing it. So it's just to have your steer as to what you want to do going forward. So, you know, do you want the responsibility of the closing of the gates at the park? There's another option to look at a period where they're left unlocked as a trial. Also then to consider any sort of timings for the closure of the gates as well. So it's just to get a steer from members. I don't know if there's anything Paul Grant wants to add in operational wise for that.
Yes, it's well known that we've reduced the public toilet opening hours. It's having a positive effect on antisocial behaviour and damage to those toilets, because they're more frequented when there are people about, and they're kind of self-policing as a result of that. So we said we would be happy to take over the closure of the park. This was around about Christmas, from the 1st of January. Didn't get response from it. We put some signage out, some advance notice signage to say Taunton Town Council parks will be open between whatever it was, 7 o'clock and 5 or whatever, it aligned with the new public toilet times. And those signs were promptly removed by Somerset Council, and their original ones stating dusk were reinstated in the park. So there has been an element of confusion from an issue that we stepped in to try and resolve, follow on from the original agreement that Taunton Town Council would take over the opening and the closing of the park. As things stand today, we've had a week of pain for the opening and closing teams, because that message hasn't been conveyed to park users effectively, the signage having been removed previously. Somerset Council are still engaged their own teams to open the park, leaving us to close them, which is a bit of a half measure. And we really would feel that previous damage done to the park was all attributed to people who had come into the park after it was closed and caused that damage, because there was nobody else about. Just as an aside, obviously we are looking after the toilets in that park, and we are seeking a quote to put some additional lighting on that toilet block, which may help users of the park at dusk and during those later hours. So in effect, leaving the park gates open will give us a chance to assess what the likely impact is, and buy us time to have proper negotiations with various interested parties about the permanent opening and closing times of the park. It's accepted that the clocks will go forward in a couple of weeks' time, and park users will want to enjoy the hours within the park. We also have to consider commuters from the various schools who come along Gwyn Lane and can currently get a traffic-free route through the park. A complaint about which we did receive, because the park gates were locked even earlier than we'd locked them prior to us taking that over. So that complaint came to us from a parent whose child was at one of the schools along South Road, who suddenly was faced with having to take a trafficked route home instead of the normal traffic-free route through the park. So that's kind of where we are, and I think we're looking for that general steer, firstly on opening times in the longer term, and secondly about the trial period through the summer when people can enjoy the park without interruption, but it needs to be closely monitored.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, we ended up agreeing to pay for this because we had a lot of residents raise significant concerns when Somerset just went, well, we're not doing it anymore. So we stepped into the breach. I was a bit well, yeah, I was sort of slimmy fuming / what on earth when I saw on Facebook that somebody got stuck in the park, because my understanding was that we weren't going to change the opening and we were going to maintain the status quo, as in, as the hours get lighter, you go, you know, you lock it later. And so I was a bit surprised to find that we'd suddenly decided we were locking it earlier. And I was like, nobody agreed to that. We agreed to fund something which was the status quo. And we've got to remember, it's not just the locking of a gate and the unlocking of a gate, it's the checking of the park at night, just to see that, you know, everyone's out safely, and also to pick up on anyone who might have decided to have a little camp or decide to have a little alcohol party or whatever it is. So there's more to it than just unlocking or locking the gate. So I think I'm just desperately concerned to ensure that we stick to what we thought we'd agreed to do originally. If we then want to have a consultation about you know, is there any benefit at all having the gates open? I mean, one sure consequence of that will be people shacked up there. That's an inevitable consequence, but by all means, let's have the engagement. But I just want us to go back to the original thing that we agreed, which I thought was to stick to the current status quo, so that it's open later as the nights get shorter, the evenings get brighter. So I don't want what I don't want is us just saying, well, it's convenient for us to close it early so that someone can go home. No, this is not about convenience. It's convenience for our residents and enabling them to get the best possible use out of Ivory Park. So I just want what I thought we agreed originally put in place. I completely sympathise with dealing with the Somerset Council end of things, but we just have to be the better men and women, don't we? And yeah, by all means, let's have a, you know, engagement, but please come and stick to what I thought we'd originally agreed.
Can I just go back to that, just to say that you have stuck to what you'd agreed. So you'd agreed to fund the service for a year, which that runs out on the 31st of March. We'd agreed the timings with Somerset Council for the closure. And on that incident that you're referring to, somebody locked in, I don't think it's quite as it sounds, that it wasn't technically locked in. It was a member of staff that actually let them out. It was whilst they were doing the walk through of the park. There was a member of the public in there, and they'd let them out of the park as well. So we haven't defaulted from what we'd said we was going to do, but that funding and that service that we'd agreed to do runs out at the end of this month.
Yeah, Councillor Amber Fackins.
Thank you. And yeah, this is the park in my ward, although it's one of the parks we don't operate. I feel quite strongly about public access to this particular park. I also want to recognise the feedback that we had from residents on Mount Street, whose properties back onto the park, who had very strong feelings about actually the parks being locked because it protects their property. So I do want to recognise that that is some of the feedback that we had at the time. However, it is one of the major assets in our town as a leisure space and as a thoroughfare for commuters, for students, all sorts of people. I'm personally have slight issues with the fact that it's locked at dusk, because in the winter time you have students coming home from after school clubs, from college at 4:30, 5:30 in the evening, when it's already dark, and that is the best traffic free route, which actually arguably you need more when it's dark rather than making them walk down roads which have got busy traffic. So I think the dusk bit is kind of a little bit of a red herring. I think we need to work out when do people need to access that space? How is it used? How are we servicing the people of Taunton? I think it's actually quite important for it to be longer, and I would really welcome a trial period to see what the impact is, because it's money that we're spending that we may not necessarily need to do. I appreciate that there's an impact on the toilet cleansing team if it's tied into cleansing of the toilets and locking the park gates, especially if it's dusk, which is a changing schedule, that does have an impact on our staff. I'm sure most of us would not like at the end of our working day to constantly shift through the year and potentially be 10 o'clock at night just because it's July. I don't think that's practical long term if we're tying that into our toilet cleansing situation. So I think it's definitely worth considering having a scheme to see what the impact would be. As we've already established through various other conversations, Ivory Park is not actually secure when you lock the gates. If anybody wants to get in, it's not actually that difficult. So knowing that it's open might mean that it's policed slightly more regularly, because you would expect people to be there and possibly take that into account when looking at, say, the street marshal or local policing, and they could take that into account and actually patrol the park of an evening.
Thank you for that. Councillor Smith-Roberts, you've been waiting a long time.
Not to worry. I come from a slightly different place, I think, than Councillor Packer Hughes. I agree with Caro. I am on the understanding that we were just funding to continue the status quo, and that's where I thought that we were going to be for the moment. And I know obviously we've got this decision in front of us. I feel extremely uncomfortable with us keeping Privy Park open where it hasn't got lighting, as an example. I think there's a difference between saying in the winter period we know students from Richard Church College, Bishop Fox's, Bridgewater and Taunton College cross it, but then I would say let's close it at 8 o'clock as an example, or even 7:30 or 6:30. I feel really uncomfortable having any form of trial period that keeps it open 24 hours a day, unless we see data from the police or others about how they are going to change their enforcement. And I don't think we've got enough police officers in Taunton to do that, because we struggle as it is. So for me, I think there's let's keep the status quo. If we haven't got the team in house, let's find money from our reserves to keep it going with the security company locking it for £8,000 compared to the size of our budget. Let's keep that going, whether we've got it in our reserves to do that already. And then we can convene a meeting with Somerset Council to ensure that things are working smoothly, communication's working and everything else. But the trial period, really, I feel really uneasy about.
Yeah, there's just some news on the contractors.
Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts. So one other factor that isn't detailed here is the fact that Somerset Council have now given notice to their contractor, and their contractor has secured other work and is no longer able to lock the park. We have made other inquiries, but to date, no luck, just as a backup.
Councillor Strauss.
One thing I feel very strongly about hasn't been mentioned. Whatever we decide, Somerset Council's website is still saying that the park closes at dusk. Now, I actually checked myself without realising all this was going on a week or so ago. I had a meeting late afternoon and I wanted to check the park hours. So it's still there. It still says closes at dusk. So please, can we sing off the same hymn sheet?
Councillor Stapleton.
You too. Yeah, I'd like to back up actually what Councillor Smith-Roberts said. I agree with her entirely. I do think we need to make sure that the park is open in the evenings, especially in the summer months. It is a vital park to the town and it's very busy and people love using it in the evening. But I think it's a big risk leaving it open overnight. I think it was previously when the gates were left open, we did end up with people in the park. I don't think it's just about locking the gates. I think it is about somebody doing a sweep of the park at the evening to make sure we don't. And I think the last time there was a problem, the cost of cleaning up, if you have some sort of encampment take place in the park, it doesn't balance out. You know, it's a vital park. We look after the assets and we close it at an appropriate time. And yeah, we could, in the winter months, if it has to be open a bit later for students and people using the park, totally agree. But I think we are putting it at risk by leaving it open 24/7.
Thank you. Councillor Furman.
Thank you. I think 7:30 would be a good, blanket time to close it all round you, because as others have said, it allows access for people after school and social activities during the evening, and obviously during the summer, it's early enough to avoid, sort of overnight revellers, but still allows people to enjoy the evening, sunlight and have leisure in the park where they'd normally be at work all day.
Thank you. Thank you. That suggestion. And Councillor Tully.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's now time we should look at the way other councils do it in Watford Borough Council, they open their parks at 7 o'clock throughout the year. They close in the winter months at 6. In the summer months, they can go open until 9 o'clock. But they also have a park keeper. So I don't want to say we need more staff, but that's what we need. If we're going to have to do it properly, we've got to have something to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tully. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm very much in favour of keeping the status quo. I agree dusk is an odd description of winter close. I think we should just have a winter closing time and a summer closing time. I think we should keep the park open for as long as possible in the summer, because it's a lovely park, and when it's a nice summer's evening, we can be out there. So I would favour much later closing time, and I do still favour a closing time. I think there are quite a few assets in that park. You know, there's the bandstand. You know, it's a nice heritage site. We've got the memorial. There are a lot of trees that have been planted in memory of people. We have the King's tree. We have a lot of trees planted for coronations there. You know, there's a lot to protect in there, which I think, you know, any park is always open to antisocial behaviour late at night when nobody's watching. And I do feel Fyvie Park is a park we do need to protect. So closing times, I think at a later time in the winter, I was often caught very short. I'll clarify that. Cycling, because there's plenty of trees. Yes, there was. You know, Fyvie Park was my cycle route to school and back every day, and it used to annoy me because I would finish at 5:30 and cycle back through Fyvie Park, and then get to the gate and find it closed and have to backtrack all the way. It was only 5:30, I thought, so it was always. I would favour much later time at the winter. Have a winter closing time, you know, the summer closing time, and later than just dusk, I think.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. And Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to agree with Councillor Smith-Roberts and also Councillor Stainthorpe about we shouldn't leave the park open at night. It has to close. I also quite like the idea that Councillor Tully put forward about having, you know, a park keeper or somebody in a potentially a permanent role to open and shut the gates at whatever times are decided. But we do have to protect the park, even though I know it's not our asset, but we still have to protect it, and leaving it open is not going to work. It's going to be open to any antisocial behaviour encampment. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick question on the clearing of the park and the checking rather of individuals in there. Am I thinking the person who does that role needs an SIA certification?
I think if that's their permanent role, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to think.
Because there is an element of risk if we're going after dark, particularly in the winter. That's what we're trying to avoid in the short term now, to try and find a quick solution. But going forwards, yes, I would suggest they do need that training specifically.
It probably need to start.
So are you ready to move to some, sorry, Councillor Smith-Roberts.
I just want a clarification really, because we've put lots of comments in, but I'm not sure we've actually got a decision. If I'm truly honest, I don't want to move to where we're getting to. I think we've put lots of different views in. Like for me, I'm happy to propose that we find some, you know, from my point of view, I'll propose that we find some money. And I know that there isn't someone for at the moment, but even if we have that budget available, we're saying to officers, use that if you can do to keep the status quo going. And then maybe then the paper comes back as soon as we can work through a solution. I have messaged the executive director at Somerset Council while during this meeting to see if we can pull together that we can get the comms and relationships sorted when it comes to that. But I just think that for tonight, I'm not sure where we've got to, apart from I'm happy to propose that we spend some or have some budget available should we need it.
I'll second that.
I think it's deciding whether to continue looking after the locking of the park gates. I think that's is that what we're signing up?
Yeah, we'll have to look at those other stuff.
Yes, and all the details come later. That's what I thought we were deciding. Thank you.
Well, yeah, if I could just add one more point, and I to be honest, I am actually happy to vote because it's a relatively small amount of money, and I'm quite happy that it's a very small part of our budget for something that I feel very proud of, and I love being in my ward. I just find it quite interesting that it is Somerset Council's asset. Somerset Council pay for the upkeep and the maintenance of the park. They pay for the green space staff for that park. And they had opted to not pay to lock the gates, whilst therefore the implication is they were happy to take the risk of paying for any cleanup or disencampments on that asset. I just thought it's just something to bear in mind, that they were happy to take that financial risk that they would have to clean up any damage to their asset, and had proposed cutting the £8,000 to lock the gates. It's a very small part of our budget to pay for it. I'm questioning, if they decided it wasn't important, why should we step in? But I'm not going to. It's not a hill I'm going to die on.
I'd just like to support Federica's, Councillor Smith Roberts' proposal, and I also disagree with the trial period of keeping the gates open. It's not just about the cost of damage. There's more to damage than cost, if you see what I mean. If the bandstand but I'm not saying if we leave the gates open, the bandstand will get burnt down, but there's more to that than cost, if you know what I mean. Is it a great thing? Now, we've bailed out Somerset House and the other things. This is a small amount in comparison.
Yeah, so I mean, what I want to vote for is Fed's thing about making sure we've got some funds to do this properly, but I also want an assurance. I don't want the opening hours delegated. I want us to say how long, when we want them opened and when we want them shut. So it has to be at least so in the summer till 10 p.m. close, apart from when you've got an event or whatever, and in the winter they need to be open long enough and only close once we're sure that most of the little children and the young people have got home safely. So I want the status quo, but with the extra, time in the winter for the children and the young people. And I don't care what it takes, find the money. Let's just make sure we look after this properly. That's what I want to vote for.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, and I don't want to get technical here, I think I would propose that we have the money to do the status quo so that the officers have got it. I don't want to necessarily at this meeting decide on timings, only because I don't want to tie officers' hands if you can only get a security firm to lock it till 8 o'clock at night. So I'm wondering whether we say in my proposal that we find some budget available to fund the status quo, whether that's through in-house or external, but we've just got that money there if we need it. That we prefer the status quo for looking at the moment, and then this goes to communities and place. Is that the right meeting? Yeah, I'll do this on the hop. So to then discuss anything further around opening time or the future of the Vibes Apart locking. Yeah.
Yes, well, makes sense. Is everybody happy with that proposal? That we continue opening and closing the park, but decide on a specific time via communities in place?
It's just the closing.
Just the closing. Yeah. Okay. Councillor O'Donnell.
We need to change, because I noticed on this, the members to consider the trial period. Do we need to take that out?
So that the proposal is the proposal.
Yes.
I was going to ask actually, because an earlier item, so correct me if I'm wrong, I've got misunderstood, that we have put in a earmarked into staffing costs. Are we able to use those when we come into it?
They split whisper and said we could probably look at using some of that.
Yeah.
Is everybody happy to vote on that one? Okay, could I have a proposal then, please? That's Councillor Smith Roberts, and seconder Councillor O'Donnell, and a show of hands, please. Yes, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 26, which is the appointment of a responsible finance officer.
Sorry, just to interrupt before you go into that item, myself and Gail will actually leave the meeting because it's regarding us, so you can have your open discussions while we're not in there. So if you just want to pull us back in when we're finished.
No, so it's, yes, Councillor Packer Hughes.
Thank you very much. Just wait for the doors to. Speedy. Yeah, slow close. So yeah, this item is to consider splitting the clerk and RFO roles. Currently, Donna Smith is both clerk and responsible financial officer. So the financial buck stops with her, as well as everything else under the clerk's role. Just to give you the background, there was an internal audit review, and I shall quote the relevant section. Whilst not an area of concern, so to remind you that this wasn't like a massive red flag, not an absolute no. We note that the town clerk also acts as the RFO. Similar sized councils across the country have generally separated the roles of clerk and RFO due to the volume of workload associated with both roles. As a new and rapidly expanding council, workload-wise, the council may wish to consider the separation of the two roles. And they did raise the recommendation that we do look at that. It has been discussed with Donna as part of her annual review, both last year and this year. She was keen last year to keep that on. This year, after much deliberation and soul searching, she has agreed that whilst she very much enjoys the role and she likes having that oversight, she understands that from an organisational perspective, it does make a lot of sense to split that, to make a separate person responsible for that finance, and that would then make her deputy the deputy RFO. She would still have oversight of the process, but the work wouldn't go with her. At the moment, the deputy RFO, for all intents and purposes, does do all the legwork. Just to make you aware that it's pretty much all done by the current deputy RFO anyway, and Donna has sign off.
So I think Craig.
Martin.
Craig. Oh, Craig's done.
RFO, not done anymore.
Right, moving on to item 27, access to information, motion to exclude the press and the public. So, during discussion of the following items, agenda item 28 and 29, it may be necessary to pass the following resolution to exclude the press and public, having reflected on the presumption in favour of openness. This decision may be required because consideration of this matter in public may disclose information falling within one of the descriptions of exempt information Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. The committee will need to decide whether, In all the circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. The recommendation is that under section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the items of business agenda item 28 and 29 on the ground that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3, respectively of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act, namely information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. So I will need a proposer as well. Thank you, Councillor Furman. Second, Councillor Pollard, and a show of hands, please. Everyone.
What about time? Do we extend again?
You've already.
Yes, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. Okay, so
Just wait a second to make sure Ollie stopped the recording.
This is a marathon.
Doesn't make any sense.